Hello and welcome to the Mystic Cast, where you join me, Jack Stafford, a student of metaphysics and member of the Aetherius Society, the cosmic religion for the Aquarian Age, as we break down the barriers between religion, science, metaphysics, philosophy, and mysticism, all of which are really only aspects of the self-same quest for truth. Please note this is an independent program not produced or fact-checked by the Aetherius Society. Today, our guest is Vinnie Adams. Hello, Vinnie.
Hey, Jack. How you doing?
Doing very well. From the Disclosure team.
Yes.
So what is the Disclosure team for anyone that doesn't know?
So the Disclosure team really is an outlet that started out on social media, just putting out what I would consider credible information on the UFO, UAP subject. It's grown into a podcast and a sort of a research team as well. So it's forever expanding.
Yeah, so this is your personal passion from when you were a young boy.
It is indeed. Yeah. It's just, again, it's another thing that's just grown and grown and grown over the years.
And have you had a sighting yourself?
No, I mean, I've seen things in the sky, but I've always been able to kind of figure out that there's a prosaic explanation to them. So unfortunately, nothing that I really want to see something obscure.
Well, people must say to you, why are you so into it if you've never had a sighting? But it's just this passion, though, this to know the truth.
It is. It's developed out of questions, about the bigger picture of why we're here and what is our place, in the cosmos and things like that. And I always want to delve deeper and not just settle for the mediocre, let's say.
Yeah. So I'm a member of the Aetherius Society, which is the world's oldest international UFO organization. Started in the 1950s with Dr. King. He was, back in the early days, he was, holding up placards in Trafalgar Square or outside the Houses of Parliament, campaigning for the secrecy, the veil of secrecy to be lifted. And it was one of the pioneers, and it still didn't work. They're still denying it as they are today.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. We just have to keep keep the activism going and hope that one day, we finally break through and get the transparency that we all deserve.
And so, are you hopeful?
I am quite an optimistic person all round. I won't take my foot off the gas, as they say. I will just keep campaigning and doing what I can, play my little role in the big machine of trying to push this subject out into the public domain.
So what do you think of the latest with these UFO, Pentagon UAP hearings? It seems like, if the military record stuff with their hardware on their videos, on their radar, that seems pretty concrete, no?
It does indeed, yes. I mean, I've been lucky enough to speak to a lot of the people involved in what we're seeing right now, and it does certainly feel like we're in a new paradigm where we're getting closer and closer. But until we get that final, confirmation, it's a case of I'm not going to get overly excited, at the moment, but certainly feels like we're on the precipice.
So where are you in terms of belief, in terms of your own personal spectrum? Because we're all on a spectrum of everything. Yeah, I mean, so we believe in the Aetherius Society that the primary communicators are in this solar system because the electromagnetic spectrum is there's matter at every frequency. We're solid now, but when we die, we go to another frequency, and on the other planets, that's where dark matter, dark energy. So we believe we're being helped by the people in our solar system because that also stands to reason because you help your neighbors first. No, we're in the same solar system, soul system. We incarnate onto those other planets. So what's your particular take on the UFOs?
It's a really good question. It's a difficult one. It changes every now and again about, the origin of a non-human intelligence. And for me at the moment, it does make more sense that this is something that has been around us here on this planet for a long time. The extraterrestrial hypothesis that they're coming from light years away, traveling through the vast distances of space, doesn't really hold as much weight to me at the moment. So it does seem like it's something that's here, whether it's just outside of our, vision, that's in a slightly different realm, a different dimension. That kind of fits in a little bit more with conversations I've had with scientists as well. That's what it could likely be.
Yeah, because nice talking to you because we're preaching to the choir, we're on the same page. But I try and get scientists on my show as well. And then you're kind of like, you're meeting them where they are. And it feels a little bit like, you're meeting them too much where they are when it's a flat, completely one-dimensional galaxy, and we haven't seen anyone, therefore we can prove that they don't exist. And yeah, it's a bit hard to believe now.
It is. It's difficult sometimes because science, I think science has still got to develop enough to incorporate what we might be dealing with. I think science is quite young as well when it comes to these entities, these beings, this subject in general. I think we're starting to see it trying to get involved now, but it's definitely got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, I think that's something some scientists miss though. If you believe that they as some scientists do, that they're able to blink in and out of existence, travel at speed of light, speed of sound, whatever speeds far above what we can do. Those craft, they're built on ideas, no? They had a blueprint one day. I mean, they were built on scientific theories. So if the results are more advanced, then the thinking must be more advanced. So you can't. That's like ants trying to hypothesize a motor car based on the adhesiveness of their saliva, or I don't know, whatever. It's,
No,
surely
you're
the
right.
surely the evidence alone is enough to prove that they have theories like the speed of light is not the ultimate velocity, that the universe is not that old, not this, it didn't come from a big bang. There's all these other possible theories which you can't see because you're just thinking within the
Yeah.
box now.
Absolutely, and that's what I've come across, here and there with scientists, is that if it doesn't fit in with the current understanding of science, then they're very standoffish, or they don't
Mm.
really want to touch it. It's a shame, but again, I think we're starting to see more science and scientists starting to take it a bit more seriously. I mean, it's a positive thing.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe they spent too much time studying science and not enough time studying history, because, like, I think in the 1890s, they were telling people not to study physics anymore because it's really, we've got it now. It's
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've heard that a few times. Definitely, yeah, that they
yeah,
thought they'd figured it all out, and
yeah.
here we are, and we certainly haven't.
So what's some of the most interesting guests you've had on your show then? Because you've done a lot.
I have, and I mean, I've had so many great conversations with so many different people from different backgrounds, and I think that's the beauty of this subject is you can speak to military personnel, you can speak to scientists, you can speak to the everyday, person, the experiencer who has had something happen to them in their lives that has affected them, and it's great to have all those kind of perspectives. And then I've had people from the religious side of things as well. And I think for me, it paints a picture that everything's connected in some way. I think whatever it is that we're dealing with, and no matter what people's different views are, that everyone has an interpretation of what could potentially be the same thing at the end of the day. And I think that's great. It helps me expand my thinking. Um, and it makes me feel more comfortable talking to people from all backgrounds, from
Mm.
all over the world as well.
So is there a particular, because such a broad, the phenomenon, shall we say, is so broad. I've met people who specialize in abductions, people who specialize in, the craft. What have you been, are you leaning to a particular area? Or,
I did start out coming from what is considered a nuts and bolts background, from as a researcher, but I always said to myself in the past few years, I really want to expand my thinking by speaking to people who are from, let's say, the abduction side of things, from the religious side of things. It's something I'd never touched upon or even really known where to start.
Mm.
And so I'm really trying to sort of broaden my horizons by speaking to different guests. And I think it's always going to be an evolution of me and my show that I don't see an end to it.
Yeah. Have you had anyone on from the Aetherius Society, or had you heard of the Aetherius Society before I reached out?
I'd heard the name, but I haven't spoken to anyone. So, that's something that I'm going to look into going forward.
Yeah,
So
please
I
do. Yeah,
appreciate it.
There's people who know a lot more than I do. I mean, Richard Lawrence, he does all the media appearances. He's based in Fulham, and
Okay.
yeah, he's super knowledgeable about, because he came from a kind of a yogic background, and
Okay.
that's the Aetherius Society is based on. It's Dr. King. He did like 10 hours of yoga every day for eight
Wow.
hours for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So he became a kind of cosmic communicator because you can get people on your level, you know. Some people say they're channeling the Mother Earth or the sun, you know, and they're just Joe Blogs. You know, you get people on your level. You can't get that much energy down through a non-prepared channel. So he was able to channel these really advanced masters, and we got the teachings, the 12 blessings, the 9 freedoms, and about 600 transmissions, which give us so many insights about, what the crafts were made of, how that, what kind of drives they use, what kind of, how they're able to do all the things. But more importantly, that the spiritual message, like, it's like, some people too focused on the vehicles. It's like reading the Bhagavad Gita and worrying just about Krishna's chariot, but it's a spiritual thing. These people, going back to the technology, and they're more advanced, so they can build better craft. But they're also closer to God. They're more spiritual than us. You don't realize that person driving that vehicle up there had to study for 20,000 years. Is a cosmic master. Is like, it's like the Buddha or Jesus. I mean, these people are just, they're Jedi, but they're like way beyond that. It's they're just so, and that's what it's nice to learn about what they believe in, and because that's eventually what we aspire to. We want to be like them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You said you raised a couple of good points there that resonated, because it does seem that throughout time and the more conversations I have, that this interlocking of spirituality and technology, it's getting closer and closer for me to sort of, it's not actually these separate areas of subjects that I probably thought when I first started out, that it was, this and this. Rather, it's kind of this interlocking. So yeah, that's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's also a learning curve. I come from a really atheist background, and I don't know if I wasn't very spiritual before hearing about it, and so it's a bit difficult to get into, coming
Yeah,
from
no,
a
absolutely. I'm similar. I wasn't brought up religious or anything, but these days I'm exploring religion a lot more, and Catholicism in particular. I feel like it's drawing me in, and it's exciting as well.
yeah. I had they talk a lot about the Bible being like a UFO book, the Star of Bethlehem
Yeah,
moving slowly through the sky for weeks on end, and then stopping over a stable. I don't know if you've ever seen a shooting star, but I've
I
never seen
have.
one do that.
No, absolutely not. No, it's normally just a quick bolt across the sky and it's gone. So no, that's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah, and they say, that these were wise men. They wouldn't be fooled by some anything like a cloud or anything, and they managed to find the stable. So it's all in there if you look for it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely
Yeah.
points to something.
I had talking about what you get into. I had Steve Mera on the show from Manchester,
Yep.
and he was really interesting as well because you never know what a UFO guy's going to talk about, and he was very into the dark the dark forces. Many of these abduction experiences are not um, extraterrestrial, but could be closer to home. So
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of theories about the abduction phenomenon. This is where it gets quite difficult because, people say, are we dealing with one thing here, or is it a multitude of different things? Is there good and bad? Excuse me. And the way I try to think of it is that it's like anything, that there is a yin and a yang with everything. There's always going to be a positive and a negative, maybe throughout the universe, that we can't have light without darkness. And I mean, that's really goes deep, and, it's again, it's a new way of thinking for me, but in a way it makes sense as well. And then you do speak to these people who have had abduction experiences, and it's completely affected their lives in a very negative way. And it's like, well, if these entities are here to try and help humanity and help people, then this isn't really the way to go about doing it if you're harming people and really sort of affecting them for the rest of their lives.
yeah, yeah. There's so many. You talk about some people talk about reptilians and things like that, which is just not in. I don't know what to say about that, things like that, because it's not in society literature. It's nothing we've ever been told about, so I can't comment on things like that. But they do say in the literature that there are dark forces. I mean, it's like I think all these movies like Star Trek, Star Wars, Men in Black, they all come from a grain of truth in them, no?
Yeah, I mean, you say there about like reptilians and these different portrayals of aliens. that can look completely different. And that then makes me think, well, maybe a hypothesis would be that they're all coming from the same thing, but they're projecting themselves to look a certain way to certain people, and it's not actually what their true form is, let's say. I
Yeah.
mean, that's always, up there with, I mean, I try and leave all possibilities open, because no matter how hard some may be to believe, we're dealing with something that's so far out there anyway. Is
Mm.
it really that difficult to think that maybe it is something like that? It's been hypothesized before. People like Jacques Vallée, the messengers of deception, who they portray something, but it's not really their true identity.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's science fiction, yeah, it goes beyond way beyond science. Again, it does go far beyond science fiction as well, because science fiction is only ever 20 years ahead of what we can imagine. I mean, you see these spaceships in the movies, they've got a red glowing light behind them as they're projecting,
Yeah.
emitting gas as they fly through. I mean, we all know that, we all know about gravity drives or hyperdrives, but they don't put that in there because, you know, the audience is only ever able to accept something that they can
Yeah.
20 years ahead of them. So yeah, we can't imagine what it's actually like. It's probably way weirder than the.
Yeah. And I have to stop and say that to myself every now and again, is that this is something that could be so far beyond our level of beginning to understand, that even if we were to get some kind of disclosure or confirmation of a non-human intelligence, that we may then take 50 to 100 years to even understand it. It could just be so mind baffling.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely the new religion. I mean, the Aetherius Society is the cosmic religion for the Aquarian age. So it's
Yeah.
that we worship UFOs, as they say, but it's like putting it a bit simply. But even without the religious element, it's become the new religion, hasn't it? People's, as science is a religion, also the study of UFOs is, and there's so many different churches and so many different, avenues to go down.
Yeah. And there's no getting away from there being really strong belief systems, excuse me, really strong belief systems in ufology and in the UFO subject. And, for me as a researcher, I try and stay focused and be data driven. But at the same time, you can't help it that biases slip in. I'm only human like everyone
Mhm.
else, that there are certain things, well, I'd rather that be true than not true. And so, there are little beliefs that slip in. And I think that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, you're the amalgamation of, I mean, having a podcast is such an education. Though you really, it's amazing to be able to, we're really the amalgamation of all our guests, our
Yeah, no,
personality.
absolutely. I wouldn't be the person I am thinking the way I do today if I hadn't done the podcast and spoken to so many people.
Did you
Uh,
get to speak to Jacques Vallée? Or?
I haven't had him on the podcast, but I hosted a conference in Paris at the end of last year, and Jacques was one of the speakers there, so I got to spend time with him,
Oh
and
wow, how was that?
that was incredible. Yeah, it was a dream come true. Such an amazing guy. Having read his books over the years, and just he was always that one guest I thought I might never get him. So I'm happy the fact that I got to meet him and ask him questions privately and things like that. It was
Yeah.
great.
Can you reveal anything? Because he in his library has like books on angels and fallen angels, and he's very into the occult, and he's a Rosicrucian. He comes from that, so he's really like, because the Aetherius Society is, it's like the Theosophical Society. You know Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society? Is that
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that read up on
no?
it, but I'm certainly familiar with the names.
So
Absolutely.
so yeah, it kind of follows on from these, the spiritual hierarchy of Earth. The adepts and so the Rosicrucians. These secret societies are in the same lineage. So he's definitely, there's definitely more to him than meets the eye.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't divulge anything to me that he hasn't said publicly or written in his books, but
Okay.
it was just being in the presence of someone like that and having the opportunity was, I guess, what I took away from it the most.
Yeah, just his energy, yeah, and his,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, because he's been in the game for so long now. And what's his background? He did it with he helped develop fiber optics, and
I
was
think so.
into
Yeah,
that.
some computer science. Back in the early days of the internet, he was involved with that as well. And yeah, I think he's just revered in many areas, not just in the UFO subject, but he's just a pioneer in so many ways. And he's the
And
kind of person we want to kind of help progress us, I would say.
do you think it's true that they got some of that technology from like Foundcraft? Or-
I wouldn't like to say yes or no. I guess there's always that possibility. And like I say to everyone, until something's proven 100% yes or no, it stays on the proverbial table of possibilities in front of me.
Okay. All right. So who else have you spoken to? What else have you? What are some of the highlights?
I've had the opportunity to speak to Dr. Diana Pasulka. She's become quite influential in some of my thinking, I suppose, and the way I approach research. You know, she's comes as a professor of religion, and how she has combined the thinking of religion, technology into the UFO subject, I think is really great. That's really helped me kind of combine some ways of thinking. Um,
Yeah, she's.
yeah,
I heard her on Joe Rogan speaking about some of her
yeah,
experiences. Yeah.
yeah, it's really good, really interesting. I think she's kind of on the cutting edge of the research as well. You know, talking with people involved in AI as well, how that can possibly help the subject in other ways, and humanity in general. You know, it's quite a, I suppose there's controversy surrounding it, that some people think AI could really be a negative thing for the future of humanity. I think it's a positive thing
Okay.
personally, but we'll see, I suppose. But who else? I mean, people like Steve Bassett, who have been involved in the disclosure of the UFO subject for decades, you know, getting to speak to these people that I started out listening to their lectures and things like that, being able to interact with them now on a level, on an even level, it's incredible to have those influences become friends in some respects as well. You know, it really helps.
Yeah.
It really helps me. And you know, if there's ever a time where I'm feeling like, am I doing something wrong, right? If, you know, just get that feeling, then I speak to people like that, and it really just helps me continue doing what I'm doing.
I think it was the Nick Pope interview that I first heard of you.
I've interviewed
Yeah.
Nick on an old channel. I have not had him actually on my main show yet.
Oh, okay.
But again, I've spoken to Nick at conferences and stuff. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful. It's great work you're doing because, these people need outlets and, they need to, to communicate get their message across. So it's wonderful work you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that's the thing. I think we all can play a role in this thing if we really wanted to. And I just put myself out there, and it's just, I'll just continue doing it. I'm not in it for fame or fortune. I just want
Yeah.
to feel like I'm playing a role, a small cog in the big machine,
Yeah.
and that gives me some purpose.
And are you hosting any other conferences in future or?
I will be, yeah. I'm actually trying. I mean, I'm in the moment. I'm in the early stages of putting together something which I'll be announcing in the next few weeks.
No exclusives.
Unfortunately, I can't at this time. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, let me know later. I can put it in the show notes because,
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
I think this probably interview will be going out a bit later, probably in June, something like that.
Oh, well, then definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Just make a note of that. Yeah. And who do you most want to speak to next? Who is on your wish list?
Wow, that's a great question. Who would I like to speak to? I mean, I've been lucky enough over the years to interview Lou Elizondo, you know, when he came out with the A-tip story and everything like that. And he's taken a back seat for the past 2 years and not done any podcast appearances. He's been writing this tell-all book, which I think is due for release in the coming months. And, you know, I'm lucky enough to speak to Lou privately quite a lot, but I'd love to get him back on so that I can do another big long form interview with him, just to kind of catch up for the
Yeah, yeah,
public as well, because I know everyone wants to hear from him, and it's been a while. So
yeah. Well, these whistleblowers or these people who've been inside the system, you can just tell they're not lying because they have such, they're so matter of fact about it, and you probe it from every angle. Um, it just stands up to the test, though.
absolutely, and I suppose some of the people that I've been lucky enough to have on the show have come from the military, who want to tell their story. You know, these credible observers. They're some of my favorite people to speak to, because they're obviously putting their trust in me to give them a platform to come forward with their stories. And so I'd like more of that to happen.
Yeah.
I think hearing from individuals like that really help propel the subject, or keep it moving forward for sure.
One thing that happens naturally, because people discover you through, if you're thinking of blowing the whistle, you do a bit of research first, and
Yeah, and like a couple of people who have come out, you know, I broke the story on my show. We've developed a relationship over 6 months plus before we even do the show. You
oh
know, to
wow,
really get, you know, so that they build trust in me, and I can, you know, make them feel just relaxed and that they're in a safe space.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think of Stephen Greer and his work with the secret space program? What's your take on that?
I mean, there's a lot of controversy surrounding some of his viewpoints and opinions currently. When he did his work back in the early 2000s with the Disclosure Project at the National Press Club and having all these high-ranking military officials speaking, that was incredible work, and I think it paved the way for a lot of people. I feel like personally, for me, he's veered off on a certain different direction than the kind of path that I'm on. So for that reason, I kind of
Mm.
don't pay
What
too
do you
much
mean with that?
attention.
What do you think? What are you referring to then? This latest movie? Oh.
Not so much. It's just, he has these very firm beliefs that all extraterrestrials are friendly and things like that. That all of these tic tacs and craft that we're seeing are military built. Like he's so sure in everything he says, and I think that's dangerous in a way to kind of be so adamant that he's got the answers.
Mm,
I think
mm.
I don't like that. I think we need to wait and just take a step back and almost take ourselves out of the picture. I think he very much he likes the focus.
Yeah.
I don't like to say too many bad things about someone, even if I don't agree with them. But yeah, I just get these kind of red flags that make me a little bit cautious when hearing what he has to say in these days.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, but do you think they have a secret space program? There is a the military within the military, or
To some degree, I'm sure there is something. I don't think we have these, hyper advanced craft that are flying around the solar system that we've developed through reverse engineering of, downed UFOs. I don't think we're there yet.
no? Yeah, I find that a little bit of a stretch.
Mm.
For sure they've found craft and they've
Yeah,
found biologics, what they call, and
sure.
I think there were donations. You
Yes,
know, they wouldn't you don't crash those things by accident or let them be found. You'd have the recovery team in pretty quick now if you didn't want it to be found.
exactly. I'm on that same page.
Yeah, yeah. That there's a secret space force and they're able to. Yeah, I think that would have slipped out a bit more. But
Yeah.
he does have people, has people, talking about it and saying, also giving testimonials about it. Have you had people on the show about that? The
No,
secret.
not really. No. Again, just through the research, it's been something that because I find a lot of the statements that have been made about people saying that we have these big programs out there in the solar system and beyond. To me, it's without any kind of data or any little snippets or tidbits that point to that. I'd rather just wait, keep it at arm's length for now.
Yeah, yeah,
I have to be cautious because I think without any credibility behind it, I'd struggle and lose credibility myself, I think, as well.
yeah, yeah. But you think they have developed craft that are able to, move and
I don't think so.
you don't
No,
say?
I think it's you hear stories of these craft have been retrieved, and then every sort of decade they pull them out from the hangar and work on them, see if the current understanding of physics can help us
Okay.
get further with the reverse engineering, and if it can't, they put it back in the hangar for another 10 years. Just as our science develops, that they see every now and again if they can do anything with it. I don't
That
think.
sounds more believable. Yeah, that sounds more
Yeah, I
because
mean that again, that makes more sense to me.
from Bob Lazar, they bring in people like that to work on it, and just on one part, yeah, it doesn't seem like they could. They're just not smart enough.
Yeah, I mean, recently we had James Lukatsky, who was head of the ORSAP DIA program, saying that it wasn't so long ago that they only managed to gain entry to one of these craft. If we're
Ah,
struggling to gain entry to them, how do we think we're going to, fully take it apart and put it together in our own way? Just nah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, that resonates. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I say, we're still, in the Aetherius Society. I'm just, I spend my time reading through, the transmissions and the spiritual stuff, so that's not really, they tell us about the crafters, like, they have two drives. You have to get Richard on the show to talk about this, but, the
Sure.
one gravity drive for close to planets and then an interplanetary drive for bigger craft and things like they do have space battles, but, I think like the, biggest craft, there's not enough space in the solar system for them to fight because they flip through the realms and they move at such speeds and they're so big that they would hit a planet. They're not.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's there's a book, Life on the Planets, which is really interesting as well. You could check that out. And
Sure.
yeah, they talk about, because they're all existing, these civilizations at different frequencies. They're right there.
Yeah.
They just, if you go to Mars, there might not be anyone there because they exist on the higher realms. So yeah, it's a fascinating subject. I really recommend you get Richard on and probe him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think I'll definitely look into that.
All right, great. So how can people follow you and see your channel and find out about more events and
Yes, I mean, on Instagram, Twitter, X now, I suppose, YouTube as well. If you just search Disclosure Team and look for the familiar black and white logo, you can find me on those platforms.
all right. Well, thanks, Vinny. It's been a real blast.
Jack, it's been incredible. Thank you so much.
All right. If people want to learn more about the Aetherius Society, they can go to aetherius.org. That's a wrap. Thanks, Vinny.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much.
So you're over in the States now?
Yes, I'm just visiting with my fiance over here for until April. So yeah.
And squeezing in some UFO stuff as well. So
yeah, I'm still doing all my work and everything like that. So yeah,
visiting some people and
well, I'm going to be hopefully meeting up with Diana Pasolka in the coming weeks as well. So
give her. Yeah, tell her she's doing great work. I really enjoyed her. She really that's what we're meeting, religion and the UFO world, because we need to, we've got to raise our consciousness if we want to meet. They're so far above us in every sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Take care, Vinny.
Yeah. Bye-bye now. Cheers.
Bye-bye.